All right, everybody, let's dive into it. Okay, so first I'd like to ask everybody who's excited to learn about EAT today. If you're excited, go ahead and put a yes inside of the chat feature within the GoToWebinar. It's a good thing to kind of get familiar with, learn how to use the chat feature, and also there's a questions feature over there too. So if you have a question at any point in time, you want to chat about something, go ahead and leave it in there. We would love to just have this be an interactive webinar. Think of this as a class. We're going to teach a little bit about EAT, what that actually is, but then after we get through that in the first 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to get into specific action items. And that's really what we tried to do here today. We tried to design a short and actionable webinar on EAT, which is one of the most important things in search engine optimization right now, but it's really more than that. It also plays a role into just general trust from your consumers, conversion rate optimization, and building a good website framework. So we're all very excited about this webinar, and I think you're going to walk away with some tangible, actionable things that you can do. All right, so we got a lot of people joining, and I think now it's a good time just to go ahead and get started. So first thing I wanted to do is introduce other experts who are on the line. So today it's not just me, although I am here. That's me on the left-hand side. My name's John Lincoln. I'm CEO of Ignite Visibility. We've been running Ignite for almost 7 years now. We're a 3-time Inc. 5000 company. Absolutely love digital marketing, and it's something that I do pretty much all day, every day, and it really is my passion to help businesses through digital marketing. Also have Nicole Lincoln. Nicole, would you like to go ahead and say hello?
Hi, everyone. I'm Nicole Lincoln. I've been working at Ignite Visibility for over 3 years now and just started in the position of the Director of Earned Media and Strategy. I manage a staff of the digital strategy team of over 15 people, and yeah, I'm excited to be on this webinar today.
Awesome, and really excited to have Nicole here. She's got a lot of firsthand experience working with clients around this particular framework, so she's going to have a great deal of information to add. And then I also have Jason Carleton, who's been with Ignite for a long time. Jason, would you like to say hello?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. My name is Jason Carleton. I'm a digital strategist here at Ignite Visibility. I've been at Ignite since 2016, but have actually been in digital marketing since about 2012. I've been working with a lot of clients, helping to improve their search rankings, increase traffic, and increase revenue. And before that, I graduated from California State University of San Marcos with a bachelor's in business administration.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Nicole. So, and if you don't know about Ignite, we're about 75 employees here in San Diego, California. We've won a couple awards in the industry. I won't go through all that right now. But we do a lot of search engine marketing, so a lot of paid media, manage over 50 million in paid media, and then a lot of SEO. We also do conversion rate optimization. Really, our whole thing is we want to work with people who are #1 in the space or who we can take to be #1 in the space. And a bit of our secret sauce is we do forecasting around every single digital channel. And also, if you're interested in learning more about forecasting and how that works with reporting, make sure to check out my new book. It's called The Forecaster Method, which is something that's just been released on Amazon. So today we're going to talk about why EAT. We're going to talk about the definition of low quality content, how to establish EAT content, and the EAT Ultimate Checklist. I've been saying EAT so much lately, I think it's been making me hungry. Thank you, Google, for coming out with that. But basically, when you think about EAT, really what is it? Well, Google cares about delivering the most relevant and correct information. And it really, really matters when it comes to health, financial websites, when it comes to any type of medical financial site, any your money, your life site. That's really, really important for EAT because they want people to be making the right decisions. But it's actually more than that. It's not limited just to your money, your life. That's a little bit of a misconception. They want you to have expertise, no matter what you're writing on some level. And that's something that's very, very prevalent in the Google Search Quality Rater guidelines. And that's something that I actually have pulled up here on another screen. We're going to get into that a little bit today, but it's really, really important because those guidelines are where we pulled all this information from. We didn't make this stuff up. This wasn't, some of it is based off of case studies and things we've done to help clients improve when they got hit by algorithm stuff around EAT, but a lot of this is taken directly from the quality rater guidelines. So we're going to get into that more.
Hey, can I chime in on that real quick?
Absolutely.
Oh, so I just wanted to point out that Google updates these guidelines. They updated them in July of 2018. They updated them again in May of 2019. And it really does a good job of outlining EAT as a way of evaluating page quality. And so the way I see it is if they are making an effort to update these guidelines on a consistent basis, they're most likely working on ways to automate this so that their algorithm will either review page quality with this criteria. So yeah, that's kind of how I look at this, is if they're working hard to publish guidelines on this, they're probably looking for a way for their algorithm to automate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for chiming in on that. And, this EAT framework, this is how we're looking at designing all content here at Ignite now. And it also gets into things like voice search. It gets into things like local. It gets into all the different elements of content that are in Google, how Google evaluates them. And then what we do is we take that and we use that to build our methodologies for clients. We just came out with something called Ignite 4.0. It's all of our new methodologies. A lot of it's from that. But let's get into specifics around EAT. So Nicole, talk to us a little bit about low quality pages. What does that mean in the context of EAT?
So after reading the content guidelines, Google doesn't really define high quality content, but they go into great depth on defining low quality content. So basically, take everything that we're going to cover in this section and do the exact opposite. So the way Google defines low quality pages are pages that may have intended to have a beneficial purpose, but they don't achieve that purpose well because they're lacking an important dimension. So we're going to walk through some of these important dimensions on the next few slides. John or Jason, do you guys have anything to add to that?
What I would say is, in SEO, there's this big tendency for people to want to do things just to get ranked and just to get money. In my mind, this is not something that's sustainable long term for any type of business for search engine optimization. 10 years ago, even less, 6 years ago, you used to be able to create 100,000 pages all targeting one keyword. You could do it dynamically. You get hundreds of thousands of visitors. It's not like that anymore. And if you look at our blog, you'll realize it's all quality content, 100%. We want to publish things that are, really very comprehensive on the topic. And a lot of that comes into this idea of the main content on the page. So Nicole, walk us through a little bit about the main content on the page. What are some of the things that Google's looking at?
Sure. So the quality guidelines really focus on the beneficial purpose of the main content. Most pages that are created are intended to be helpful for users, which is what gives them that beneficial purpose. And Google determines whether sites are creating content solely to rank for certain keywords without considering the user. So like you said, John, when previous practices were to just create as much content as possible to just target certain keywords, whether that's dynamically or however, that may not have had the user in mind. So when everyone's creating content for their website, this is something that you should think about when you're writing new content or revising content, is what is the beneficial purpose of this main content. So pages with main content that doesn't achieve their purpose are going to be considered low quality and given that low quality rating. I just want to touch, so another thing to consider is the amount of main content on that page. There needs to be enough content to thoroughly explore the main content. So Google thinks that pages are unsatisfying for users if they have a small amount of main content for the purpose of the page. And the example that Google actually gives in their guidelines is, imagine an encyclopedia on a very broad topic such as World War II. And there's just a few paragraphs on that page about World War II. Google is not going to rank a page with a couple paragraphs on World War II because users wouldn't be satisfied with that result. So the main takeaway on that point is that pages are going to be given a low quality rating if there's an unsatisfying amount of main content for the purpose of that page. Last thing is Google is tackling low-key forms of spammy page titles that have been on the rise lately. So sites with page titles that are clickbait, are too sensational, or titles that don't match the actual content are being rated as low quality. So these exaggerating or shocking titles may entice users to click on these pages in search results, but the pages aren't living up to people's expectations. So this is going to leave users feeling confused, which is a poor user experience. So pages with an exaggerated or shocking page title and the content does not describe or doesn't match that title is going to be rated as low quality. And the image on the right here outlines what Google considers main content. So they have main content, which is outlined in that gray box, and then everything on the outskirts of those boxes is considered supplementary content, which we'll get into a little bit more later on in this presentation.
Really well said. And one of the things that I want to touch on there is, you've got these kind of longer tail terms where, you could probably have something slightly shorter that speaks directly to it. But if you're going to go after a longer term, and you're going to go after something like PPC or pay-per-click, for example, you need to cover that entire topic, right? And so this is a page that we have that ranks for, one of the most competitive terms online, right? And that's a comprehensive page that's been updated, that's been refreshed, that, covers all the different questions around the topic. So broad terms, really need to speak to that broad landscape. And also, I find it kind of tricky because, for the title, I love to have things that people want to click on, like click-through rates are great, but you don't want to be deceptive, right? You want to make sure whatever you say in that title, you make good on that promise inside of the content. So you got to kind of walk that line. So let's talk about content creators.
Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. There's a difference between getting someone excited about something and looking forward to clicking that page title, but then if it's too exaggerated, then they're going to get to that page and be disappointment. So there has to be a balance between getting people excited and then maintaining that throughout the content.
On that point, just a couple quick tips for everybody. So we've got things like for titles, putting numbers inside of titles are really, really good as far as increasing click-through rates, letting people know what the promise is inside of the title. So what type of value are they going to get from it, not just targeting a keyword. We're seeing these type of things are working really, really well lately.
Thank you. All right. And so the quality rating system doesn't only just focus on content quality, but it also focuses on the content creator. So Google doesn't believe that there's a good reason for content creators to remain anonymous. They also started considering the content creator's reputation in their rater guidelines. So reputation is important on all websites, but like John said before, the content creator is even more important on YMYL websites. There are websites with content that can affect your money or your life are rated a little bit more stricter. So if your user is reading a YMYL website, they might make a decision based on what the content creator is recommending. Therefore, the content creator needs to have expertise in the industry in order for Google to trust that website content. So this is good news for the content creators with great reputations, but it's also an opportunity for those to develop an expertise in the industry if they may have a limited reputation. Anything else to add on that, John or Jason?
I mean, I think the main point I would say on that one is, imagine that you're coming into the medical space, right? Or, all these people are coming into the CBD space or the financial space. If you throw up a website and it doesn't have, a person on it who's highly credible and, and you just create all this content, there's zero chance that it can rank against all these other credible sources out there. So, I think that's something that's just really, really important, is that behind every website now, you really need to have a clear, visible expert. Otherwise, the content, carries no weight inside of Google's eyes.
Yeah, I agree. And so they also, low quality content, if your site has any hate or misleading content on it, Google has a very clear stance on this. Pages that are created with no attempts to help users, or pages that potentially spread hate, cause harm, or misinform or deceive users will receive the lowest quality rating, and no further assessment is necessary. Google is not tolerating this. They're going to detect it, and the end. So if the main the main content contains misleading or inaccurate information with the sole purpose of getting users to click or buy products, then you're going to receive a low rating. So they're essentially saying if they detect hate, harm, or harmful, misleading content on a website, that it's going to give you a low rating and not continue assessing your content. So yeah, make sure that there's none of that on your site.
If Google looks around, they see people saying bad things about you that are on validated sites, that are on other expert sites, they're going to take that into account. If you've got content that's totally, right or left or hateful, too much, that, they're going to take that into account. Anything that's far too extremist, anything that can harm somebody, right? Anything that's got malware links, thank goodness they're doing this. I mean, we nobody wants any stuff on their computer. So these are a couple other things that they're looking at. So let's get into a couple of these other items. The distracting ads, this is something that comes up a lot. So I've worked with a lot of publisher sites, and I'll give you just a quick rule of thumb for this. So, I mean, if you've got more than 3 ads above the fold, then, you could be in trouble, right? So you really want to have the content be much more prevalent than the ads. If you're trying to trick somebody into clicking on something, that's not going to be good, right? If you're using, these, have you ever just Googled something, you end up on this website, you scroll to the bottom, and you see all these like shocking ads of you don't even know what it is. Is that a fruit or is that something else, right? You're like, what is that? I want to get out of here. Google doesn't like that either, right? So those type of things now, they're taken out of the index, right? And that's a good thing. And then also unmaintained websites. So that's another thing that's also big. If the website hasn't really been kept up to date, that's creating issues. And we see that a lot. With us, we really don't like to have websites that we're working on that aren't, look like they've been made within at least the last couple years or something like that. Nicole, anything you want to add to that one?
I think you pretty much covered it. Just with this one of the problems when having ads on the site is that it distracts people from the main content. And when the main content is difficult to use or difficult to see, that's where Google's going to come in and give your site a low rating for content quality. And like you said, websites that are considered abandoned will eventually fail to achieve their purpose over time because content's going to become stale, the functionality may have stopped working. So definitely maintaining the website and not distracting people from the main content.
Okay. And we have a couple questions coming in. The first one is, are you saying I can't actually establish my blog or website without having a person of note? And Nicole, what's your take on that question? How do you feel about that?
I feel I think that it is, and actually Jason's going to get into this a little bit when he goes through how to establish each with website content, but positioning yourself as an expert or having an expert on the site will definitely help you out. But yeah, I'll let Jason tap into that.
Yeah, I think also these are best practices that we need to work into all of our content, and that's just one piece of the pie there. So, SEO, I guess in general, SEO is like a lot of really small things that you do that all turn into something big and really help your website rank better and generate more traffic. And that's another piece that you can work on.
Yeah, and from my perspective, well said, guys. I think you would be crazy, right? And online, you want to get everything you can to get the edge, right? And what happens is, what's the whole point of content? Well, somebody does an article, or does a search, right? They search for, how does pay-per-click work? They click on it, they read an article, they're like, great, okay, who wrote this? I see in the sidebar it was written by so and so. Oh, that person looks like an expert in their field. I follow them, I learn more about them. And I could go on about how all the different ways to market to them and stuff like that. But essentially, it's that brand recognition. People do a search, they land on something online. You have one chance to get them to know about your company. You have one chance to get them to know about, who you are, and you really, really want to take that chance. So I highly recommend doing that. I feel like you're leaving a lot on the table if you don't. Now you could probably get ranked for a little while, but eventually, if you gain some authority in a niche, that is very heavily regulated by EAT, then, eventually, they could totally ding you. And I've seen it happen. I have seen people try to do a blog in one of these niches and just get destroyed when these type of updates went out. So let's keep moving, because now the question becomes like, how do you really establish your site for EAT? And how do you make sure that it's set up 100% correctly? And what we're going to do here, we're going to give you our top items, right? And we've got kind of this framework for doing it with clients, and it's a work in progress and something we're always working on. Jason, talk us through a couple of these points, starting with number one.
Cool. So the first thing you want to do is take a look at your digital footprint. So does your site have a positive or negative digital footprint? So put into Google, your domain name with a little like minus or dash, site colon, and then your domain name again. And what that's going to do is pull up all the results that have to do with your domain, but not including your domain. So you're going to get to see maybe things like your social profiles, recent articles posted about you. And so when you're looking through that list, are you seeing a lot of negative things? Are you seeing a lot of positive things? And if you are seeing these negative things, you might need to do some reputation management to try to improve your digital footprint. Because like Nicole was saying, Google's kind of looking at all these different sources and deciding whether your site has that trustworthiness, has that authoritativeness, if you guys are really experts in the field. On top of that, type in your company name plus the word scam, or just type in your company name and see what comes up. If there's a lot of negative press that's coming up, you probably have some work to do to try to establish and improve your EAT.
And they're going to be looking at these third parties more than your own site too. So I think that that's really important, and just to see how rep management works. I mean, you want to put in your brand, find all the different ways that people are searching for your brand, and then make sure you own that search space, both using your own domain, your own profiles, and then also by using secondary profiles that are out there, linking them all together, getting them all to rank well. It's a really important thing for a lot of businesses as they grow. Now, Nicole, what point were you going to make on this slide?
Oh, I was just going to say that this plays into your reputation and your online reputation. So that was the main point I was going to say.
So getting into number two,
Great.
walk us through this.
Yeah, for sure. So the next thing you want to do is kind of come up with these sources or sites that are trusted, have high authority, that you can link out to as your sources, and just kind of become affiliated with these high quality, high authoritative sites. So in some patents, Google mentioned that they check websites against like a known list of facts and to see like who's getting things right and like who's not. So you definitely want to be linking out to these sites that have scientific research done behind them, or high authority, to make sure that you are not only referencing correct material, but you are kind of being affiliated with these high quality sites. And then on top of that, when you're writing these articles, you want to make sure that if you're making any claims or you are referencing any facts, you want to source where you're getting this information from. A lot of this stuff is super important when you're doing anything in like the health or the, all those your money, your life types of sites.
Awesome. And then a quick tip on that. This is something that's kind of fun to do. Anytime that you link out to somebody, it's a great strategy to shoot them a quick email, let them know that you linked out to them. They'll email you back. They'll say thank you, and you say, hey, if I send you a link to you, I would love it if you would share this post on social media. A lot of times they'll do that. You'll develop a relationship. They'll start following your site. They'll start linking to you. That's just an easy little strategy to generate links. Especially, it's very good for a new website. So Jason, we've been doing a lot of industry studies and interviews. It's something that it's been good for clients and just in general. Talk us through this and why this can be helpful for each.
Yeah, this goes a lot, or goes along with what you're just saying too, with all the reaching out and trying to get backlinks. But some of the cool things that we've been doing at Ignite are these industry studies and industry interviews, where we basically pick a topic where we want to write about, and we either are asking like experts to kind of answer a few questions about that topic and publish that piece of content. And that content, is really referencing all these experts, and we get to create this really authoritative, trustworthy. We're really hitting all the EAT on this one, and so that's just another great piece of content there. And then, like John said, you can reach out to all those people that you interviewed, asking them to try to share with their audience, and you can get some traffic and backlinks that way. Another thing is these industry studies, where we're picking a topic and we're collecting all this data and publishing these studies, where we are really solidifying ourselves as an expert in the field. So that's been really cool to put together. And then on top of that, there's a lot of sites out there that, they rank the top, companies, top marketing companies, top this, top that. And it's great to try to become part of that list, so that not only, Google can see that, but for a lot of people that maybe are researching your company or your products can see that and have faith that they're making the right decision when they choose you. So this is a great one.
I just feel like it's such an easy way to cut through the clutter. If you come out in a new market or one of these your money, your life, fields, coming out with an industry study tied to a real expert, it helps you cut through the clutter. You get a big bang for it's manufactured press. So I've absolutely loved doing these, and you saw an example of one that we did for ourselves not too long ago. On number 4, I can cover this real quick. So one of the biggest things for me is, attaching an expert next to the blog, right? Attaching an expert next to any article, right? And what happens is when the quality raters, they look at the site and they see this person, they go, oh, okay, check, right? We've got somebody who at least knows what they're talking about. But if they read the blog and it's just a short blog and the blog doesn't have any author and, and it's not linked to anything and it, there's no sources, think about it. It just makes sense, right? So that one's pretty self-explanatory. One quick, tangible, actionable thing, try to get a great author attached to a blog. Now, one of the things that's a big issue a lot of times is, making sure that, that person, is comfortable with the content that's next to their name. So they either need to write it or they need to provide notes. Now, one thing that I've seen, if you want to do a lot of content creation, if you have an expert get on a Zoom or get on a recording and there's 5 different articles I want to write, this is what I want them to look like, that can allow you to scale your content a little bit more because you're providing a lot of guidance and specific guidance so that somebody else can help them with some of the writing, and then the editing, of course, would be reviewed by them as well. But an expert is really, really important. What about privacy?
Yeah, and
Jason?
Let me just add one more thing to the author thing too, is that, a lot of these sites that are maybe not doing so well, or that you have to do with this your money, your life, people want to trust the information too. Like if you're talking about anything medical and you're not saying why you're qualified to write this post, for me, I don't know if I would trust that content. And I think that's really what Google is trying to protect people with, is just making sure that the people that are producing this content that you're reading, can trust it. So yeah, the next thing is kind of some of these more boring pages, but also super important is the privacy notices, the terms of use, and the affiliate disclosures. So these are things that Google is looking for and that you really need to have on your site. Some of these pages are even required by a lot of ad platforms. So make sure that you have these different pages and make sure that they're updated. Every year, make sure you're doing things right. So next we have this plagiarism, and people are still doing it. So you got to make sure that you are producing unique, high quality content, and that this content's not coming from or being copied from other sites. And yeah, make sure that you're either your content team or you're using unique content and you're not stealing anything from anyone else.
There's tools out there that you can use to check to see if your content has been stolen. But if you don't have access to one of those tools, a really simple way to do it is to just take like a sentence, put it in the search bar of Google with quotes around it, and see what results pop up.
Yeah, that's a good tip. Next, we have internal links. So internal links are always super important for SEO. Another just great best practice. So when you're publishing this new content, and obviously following all the things that we're talking about today, make sure that you're kind of going through your site and seeing if there's any opportunities for you to link to this new content from your older pages or your older blogs. And then on top of that, make sure that the new content you're publishing is linking out to some of your more important pages as well. That way, you're kind of pushing that link juice to your top pages and helping this new piece of content rank better. Then external links. So, in those first steps, we made a list of those external links. And again, you want to link to these external sources so that you're affiliated with these top sites, and really just showing that you have the expertise and that this content is trustworthy. And then remember to link to these sources at the bottom of your page. That way, everything that you're saying is credible, and you're just producing a really high quality piece of content. Then backlinks. Backlinks are still huge. So making sure that you're driving high quality backlinks to your site, and even trying to reach out to those credible sources that we made a list of, and trying to get them to link back to you. I mean, that'd be huge. So make sure you're doing all the outreach, getting high quality backlinks to your new post, to your site, and then on top of that, doing these backlink audits to be sure that you're not getting hit with any spam. I mean, I've had a lot of clients, or not a lot of clients, I've had a few clients where they've been hit with a lot of spam, and so it's really good to continue to audit and look at your backlink profile, make sure there's nothing weird going on there.
Yeah, and so what we've seen is our content, oh, sorry, Jason. I was just going to say our content strategies that we develop at Ignite are even more successful when they are implemented with a strong outreach and promotion strategy. So those two kind of go hand in hand. It really does help the success of content when you have a backlink strategy put in place.
And one of the things I wanted to add, this is John, is I think a lot of people, they started getting really kind of link happy again recently. I want more links, and they, low quality stuff, anything you could get, things like that. I was definitely getting a lot of people asking me that. But what happened is over the last, 30 days or so, a lot of link penalties went out, not to any of our clients, but to a lot of other people out there, because people started getting too loose with it. So manual actions, people getting really hurt. And when we first started Ignite, it was a lot of people coming to us. They had penalties. We were helping them clean it up and stuff like that. So links are still really important, but, kind of mid to high quality ones and acquired in the right way. And, what we have is this whole outreach team here. So one of the things we'll do is we make this industry study, we write this amazing post. Then what we'll do is we'll reach out to all the other people who have written on it. We'll say, hey, this is a great thing to link to. It'll actually help your article, things like that. And just a real simple strategy, and it works really, really well. It's incredibly hard to build out, though. So links are still super, super important, but the two of these things together, so going back, updating all those pages, making them 100% high quality. If it's on a broad topic, making sure that you're covering everything on that topic, and then getting an outbound, linking strategy going. Those two things together are really helping our traffic and a lot of clients' traffic as well. So let's get into number 10. Number 10 is AMP. Okay, so Google comes out with AMP, right? They say you got to do AMP. Everybody needs to do AMP. It's mostly for news sites, and news sites actually show up in this story feature inside of mobile. They get big spikes in traffic. Everybody's really happy, right? Then Google says, hey, we kind of learned a lot about AMP. It's not quite as important for us anymore, but we still kind of care about it. In general, it ends up hurting a lot of conversion rate optimization for websites. There's a lot of misimplementation of AMP. People don't set it up right. People start attributing a lot of goals to AMP. They think AMP's really working for me, but that's just because mobile traffic is growing so much and everybody's going to the pages on AMP through their mobile phones. They think that, that's an important thing. But here's what I've seen, okay? For a normal website that's not a news publisher, AMP creates a lot of issues. And in fact, we've seen a lot of these websites that are Your Money, Your Life, EAT sites, they've been hurt because of their AMP implementation. Let me explain why. On AMP pages, most of the time, somebody puts in place the plugin, they push the page live, the page goes live, okay, they've got this AMP page, that's great. But what's on the AMP page? The only thing that's on the AMP page is the main content. You heard Nicole refer to that earlier, right? It's just this main content. What about all the other stuff? What about the calls to action? What about the author bio that we just showed you how important it is for E? What about all the credibility things that make up a good website, right? So when Google in their search evaluator guidelines is looking at pages, they're looking at, the totality of the page. And when you look at an AMP page versus another page, a lot of times it falls short. So for me, I don't really think you should be doing AMP unless you really have like an expert, making sure it's 100% correct, or you're a news site and you're just churning out a ton of stuff. In a lot of cases, I find it better just to have a consolidated basic framework there. And in a lot of cases, in three or four cases, we've helped people merge it all into one and then get a lot of this other EAT stuff cleaned up, and we've seen the traffic literally do a horseshoe and come straight back, okay? So I'm not saying don't do AMP. I'm just saying if you're going to do it, make sure you're doing it right. Also on that note, Google's coming out with a lot new like advanced implementation JavaScript stuff for AMP, so you can add more features. But for me, it's not worth it unless you're really going to have the right framework there. Next thing, dates on a page. I'll cover that one because it's pretty self-explanatory. You should have a date on your page. But I will also say this. If it's an older date, that's going to hurt you, okay? That's why it's so important to keep websites up to date, right? If it's an older date, it's 2 or 3 years old, and Google can find that they're going to weigh that against something that's brand new, something that's fresher, right? And so really for me, like my whole new mentality is we should really be updating web pages every couple years, at a minimum. Now, I know that's hard. I mean, our own website has thousands and thousands of pages, but, if you really want to, beat the competition, keep ranking, you need to scale the amount of content that you're refreshing and re-updating it. And that's one way we've been growing our traffic, 5 to 7% a month, is by going in and making sure that all of this old stuff that, I might have written 6 years ago is now up to date, and that it's accurate, and that it's got all the latest and greatest stuff. And when you think about it, that makes sense, right? So getting the FAQs on the page.
Freshness. I was just going to say that content freshness is a ranking factor. And then just to bring it all back together to what we talked about previously or earlier in this presentation is, the lack of maintenance on websites is updating your content shows Google that you're maintaining it.
Awesome. And Nicole, while you're talking, and since I know you know a lot about the FAQ side, walk us through that a little bit. Like, why is that important for EAT and just in general?
One of the reasons that FAQs are really important is Google can pull these FAQs into its rich snippets. So if you have a frequently asked question that someone asks about SEO and Google sees that you have it on your page, it's likely going to pull your response to that in that quote unquote like ranking 0 position in search results and feature that snippet from your page. So it's also a way of fully covering your main content and really getting into that depth that Google wants to see on a topic.
Yeah, and then you really just...
I'll add is it just came out that Google is now actually, if you do a search, they're taking you to the exact section on the page that relates the most to it. They're doing a test on that right now, and they're actually highlighting it, right? So the more questions you answer, the better. Jason, what did you have to chime in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, that we're really just trying to create the best piece of content possible here. So why not answer all the questions about that topic to really establish that expertise for that page? So I really, really like the FAQs.
Talk to us about snippets a little bit.
Sure. So there's lots of different snippets, that Google is using and putting within like the search results. So the one shown here is the review snippets. And so that's a great way to show that reputation and make sure that you have that positive digital footprint that I was talking about earlier. But there's lots of different types of schema that you can use to show up within the search results. You see a few of them here: the books, local business, music, movies, products, recipes. But there's so much more than that that you can use to sometimes even just take up more room within the search results, which can draw people more to your page and provide more information. As you can see, those reviews, they definitely make these search results stand out more, and can also increase your click-through rate on those pages.
Yeah, I think the statistic is that pages that have that star rating system on them have a 17% higher click-through rate than pages that don't have them.
Just a couple more things to go through before we get into Q&A. Jason, walk us through the last few. How about HTTPS?
Sure. So you definitely got to make sure that your site is secure. And so a lot of sites in the past, it really wasn't as big of a deal like a few years ago, but now it's a huge deal, and you really want to make sure that your site is secure because that's become more of a ranking factor in the last year or two. And on top of that, making sure that all your files are secure, and this becomes even more important for these e-commerce sites.
And last couple things here, so making sure that you're avoiding clickbait headlines. We had already kind of talked about that a little bit, and then we kind of end up with the ultimate checklist here. And we did have a couple questions come in, so I want to make sure that we get a chance to get to those. So let's dive into that, and then I'm going to just quickly walk you through this. So 15 things that you can do: authors, source, verified facts, link to pages, get rid of AMP. You heard my whole spiel on that, right? So don't go everywhere say John says get rid of AMP. There's like a lot of context around that. Review snippets, no stolen content, FAQ related to the page, short bio on anything that is an expert thing, dates on the page, but careful with that. You don't want old dates because it will hurt you. If you go back and you have a whole bunch of older content and you just put dates on your page right now, it will hurt you. Don't do that unless you have newer content that's got a little bit of a strategy around that as well. Industry interviews, so doing industry interviews with authoritative people, interacting with them, but then also doing industry studies, linking to your most trusted pages, no spammy links, HTTPS, okay? So those are the things that are really going to help you with EAT. So now let's jump into Q&A a little bit. So the first question is there a specific Google definition for an unmaintained website? Nicole?
Yes, I tried to put just a summary of what they define as an unmaintained website in here. Let me go back to that slide really quick. So basically, not updating the back end of your site, and your site's not compatible with browsers anymore. John, if you want to pull up the search quality, the guidelines there, and if you search for unmaintained websites, they do a really good job of outlining it in this document. You should be able to click it and it'll go there. Go to the next one. There you go. So it outlines it here. Really, I think it's pages that have not been updated. So you've got content on there that's not up to date and is no longer accurate. I think the accuracy has to do with it, and then sites that just aren't functional anymore are really how they define unmaintained websites.
Awesome. Okay, next question is, what would be EAT for educational websites? That's a good question. Jason, since you work on quite a few of those, do you want to touch on a few of those points?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, anytime you're publishing like a blog or anything like that, you definitely want to make sure that you have a author on that page that shows like that they're qualified to be talking about those subjects. You want to make sure that you have that positive digital footprint, making sure you're getting backlinks from high quality related and relevant sites. Let's see.
Jason, just to go back to that author page real quick. On that author page, write about what makes you qualified to be writing about education. Are you a credentialed teacher? Do you have continuing education classes? Write about what makes you the expert and authorized to talk about this particular topic that you're writing about. So, don't be shy. Put anything on there that is related to the education field and makes you an expert. Yeah,
definitely, kind of brag about yourself there. That's where you can talk about any awards that you've gotten, years of experience that you have. It's almost like a little mini resume.
Yeah.
Awesome. And let's see, the last question we have here is, how do we deal with old pages that are not EAT friendly? Okay, so I'll take that last one. So I feel like that's a huge opportunity for you. And I just want everybody to think about this, and maybe this is just a good place to kind of end. As you're going into 2020, don't be the company that just has a bunch of random web pages out there on the internet and you don't really know what they're for, what they do. Take inventory of every single page of your website, grab it. What's the purpose? What's the exact keyword you're going after? What's the question that you're answering? What's the purpose that you have? With any page, you should be able to do the 7-second test and see what problem are you solving? What's your key differentiator? What are your main benefits? What's the call to action? What's the purpose of the page? Going through and then using this checklist to make sure that it's 100% EAT friendly and something that you're proud of online. And if you do that, it's very full circle because people want to share it, people want to link to it. You end up getting a bunch of more traffic, and it kind of all comes together. So actually, we have a couple more questions coming through here. Should we include FAQs on the home page or only on the service pages? I think that's the last question we'll take today. I think, what I would say there is there's a lot of different websites out there that are built in a lot of different ways, and I think you definitely can include FAQs on the homepage. One of the things I've seen is there's about a 10% increase in conversion rates when you have FAQs on a page because it answers all the questions. Jason, any final thoughts on EAT that you wanted to share with us today?
I think, again, it just comes down to this is just another best practice that everybody needs to be including within their content. And you're really just creating that best piece of content possible, and it improves your content. So I definitely make sure you guys are including it going forward.
Final words of wisdom? I would just say go through that document that document over there. It's really long. It's 166 pages, and I really think it's just going to grow from there as they keep updating it. But they give very specific examples of how you can improve your content. So I would definitely go through this.
And last thing I'll say is I'm going to do all that work for you. Actually, I'm writing a blog post right now that goes through this entire guideline and brings out every action item that you need to do for your website. We've kind of already done that a little bit in the presentation today, so we pulled out some of the most important things, but we're going to do an even more substantial look at that. So keep an eye out on the Ignite Visibility blog for it. Should be out next week. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining today. If you like this, would love to hear about it. Send out a tweet or something. This will be up on YouTube soon and also on the blog. We really appreciate everybody taking the time. If you need any help, if you're hurt with EAT stuff, or you're just looking to update and have more quality content, we're around for you. So thanks so much. And Nicole and Jason, thank you guys also for being a part of this. We appreciate you, and have a great day, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye.
Have a good day. Bye.